Hey, what's up out there? All right, Howler Mouse here, and found a totally random uh, guy selling comics at the mall. We went out, I think it was Friday, to a local mall here, and since about February or March, there's been absolutely nothing out here, which is why I haven't done a bunch of haul videos. And Friday, we walked into the mall, walked through one store. Then when we got out to the open space in the mall, my eyes zoomed right in. There's a guy who regularly sets up at the mall around here, and he sells all kinds of stuff. And I saw two short boxes of comics I was zoned in on. Didn't even have to say a thing. The wife knew that I was going to be going over there. And even though it didn't grab a whole lot of great stuff on here, it was still kind of fun to go through and pick up comics. Picked up a few books I already have, but I'm going to keep them on the shelf for so I can pull them out instead of pulling them out of the boxes. Hey, what's going on? And man, a lot of people's already jumped on here. That's awesome. But usually I used to do Sunday shows in the morning and stuff. May get back to that. But here we are on a Sunday afternoon, 11:29, last day of my Thanksgiving holiday weekend, if you will, where I had a few days off and it flew by. So it was kind of cool to dig through some comics after so many months of having comic book conventions either closed down or just feeling like it was just not worth the trip to go out there because of the small vendors. I've been to one this year, and they had one other one that still continued out in Roanoke, the Big Lick Comics convention. But like I said, it just didn't feel like it was worth the trip and the hassle with today's situation that we've had for months and stuff. So I hope everybody's had a great Thanksgiving and a great Thanksgiving weekend. And I don't know about you, but I am totally dreading going back to work to see what's sitting there waiting on me. So anyway, one of the things that we got that I don't really count as part of this haul because I was actually looking for some Christmas presents, trying to knock that out of the way. But about 4 years ago, I had somebody introduce me to an anime cartoon, 13 episodes based on a manga series that was called Elfen Lied. And from what I understand, that is a German title. Figure that a manga comic that I think is serialized in an anthology series over there. I think it had something like 107 chapters. But Elfen Lied, from what I was able to look up, is actually a German title for the book, and it means Song of the Elf, I believe. And when they did the anime, we found the anime totally randomly, just looking for something to watch, and there it was on Amazon Prime. Ended up binging all 13 episodes. I'd seen the first 2 years ago, and we're going to end up ordering them and stuff, right? But the anime cartoon came out before the manga was finished, so it has a totally different ending. So we got what we ended up finding at Books A Million for a great price was volume 1 of that manga that Dark Horse put out. There's 4 of these mangas. This is the first 3 volumes. I guess there's 12 volumes that came out. And this thing is fantastic. It's it's like mutant women is what they are. This race of mutants. They have a name. I'm going to try to spell it out, but it opens up with a naked female with a gigantic iron helmet with no facial features on the helmet. And as she's walking through this facility, escaping, everybody's just blowing up, being cut to pieces and slashing. It turns out they have what's called vectors. And what they are, they're like psychic hands that can slice through everything and stuff. They also have horns on their head. They're very cute, and it's very bloody, and they're very dangerous. And this thing was absolutely fantastic. So this is actually the Weiss book. We're actually getting quite a collection of manga in this house now. And this was fantastic. What's up, Paulo? Victor Thomas and Paolo's out there. What's going on, guys? So here we are on a Sunday. Like I said, I used to do the Sunday shows in the mornings. They may be coming back, but we're in the afternoon. And I always talk about rainy Sundays being that nostalgic feel for when you'd crawl up on a bed. At least I did when it was raining outside. It always felt like it was Sunday. and I'd have a stack of comic books. Well, it's about to rain now, which is why I'm getting this out of the way before the storm hits and stuff. I'm probably going to read a little bit tonight. But anyway, this is volume 1 of 4, and we'll be getting the other 3 volumes as time goes by. These are traditional. They read from right to left, and it is in English, but this is just fantastic. It's one of the better storylines I've seen. The manga / anime / novelizations that I like are like Lone Wolf and Cub, Vampire Hunter D, going all the way to Science Ninja Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets over here in the States. And there's a few more, Battle Angel, Adela, I think it's her name, and a few other ones like that. So now we're adding that Elfen Lied. Growing up in the 80s, getting these things on VHS when they were imported, I really couldn't jump on a lot of them. Nausicaa, which was called Warriors of the Wind back then, had a horrible reinterpretation over here that was completely terrible. So it's great that during the last at least 10 years, I think, or more, was Spirited Away, becoming a big hit over here, and getting in Disney, Pixar, kind of being the people to bring all the Studio Ghibli stuff over here has really opened up a lot of stuff, and the translation, I'm assuming, is much better to where I can jump on these. I just couldn't stand the dubbing where the mouths didn't match, or they would talk way too fast trying to fill in all the dialogue and stuff. It just drove me nuts. Somebody out here, what do we got here? Who is this? Last Avenger 85, Devilman is a good manga. I will definitely check that out. I've heard great things. Hey, Enigma Vibration. Good to see you, man. That's fantastic. But my favorite is going to be Lone Wolf and Cub, and probably Nausicaa, more the cartoon than the mangas that I have and stuff. The mangas are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. All right, so we'll put that to the side. Now, this is going into the comic book hall. I think there's 29 or 30 books on here that came with this. I did the math, and I think it came to like 67, 68 cents a piece for these. And like I said, it was just really fun to, after so many months of really not being able to do it, to just kind of flip through these beat up comics and just find a few to read, a few that I could take a chance on. And they were really cool about it because they kept saying, just put that one in the bag, put that one in the bag, put that one in the bag. They started out $1 a piece, but I think they may have remembered me from before the pandemic and everything hit. Now, something that I got, I always pick up the wrong one. I need number 4. I collected this series when I was 10 years old. This was the series that I thought that I was going to get started number 1 at 10 years old, and it was going to carry on until now. I would still be collecting this book off the series, but sadly that didn't happen. But it brought me a lot of joy when I was 10 years old to jump on there. And I think this actually is the 2nd or 3rd official Batman title that had a number 1. A little trivia there. And a lot of things, this book actually influenced quite a bit. I think about 8 years ago, I did a video about how Batman the Outsiders actually influenced guys like Judd Winnick and Brad Meltzer and Jeff Johns a little bit and stuff, right? It had heavy ties to the Marvel and Teen Titans. And Frank Miller helped co-create this a little bit. He had a hand in with a character or two, But anyway, but I always kind of pick this up. I need number 4, but I always end up picking this one up when I see it because it has the Cryonic Man. Now, this kind of shows you how when you're a kid and you're reading fast and you talk about it over the years, I used to call him the Cryogenic Man. I don't know why, but other people did also that I've talked about this series that remembered. Number 6, all right? This is an upgrade, if you will, out of everything I got out of that box. This one is actually in better shape because this is when I would just stack my books all over the room, or they'd be flying around, and I would read and reread them, and just watch them just deteriorate and stuff. But I still have the series. But the reason I kept this is I sort of really dug the story. This was during the Cold War, if you will, right in the middle of it. And in the 50s, this family got together, went into a bomb shelter, and they cryogenically, which is why I called the Cryonic Man, the Cryogenic Man. Basically, they went into a bomb shelter and froze themselves. He came out, and his whole goal was going out in the world, taking people so he can get their organs to put into his wife so she would survive when she was thawed out. Years later, like a decade later, when I'll be hearing about this Batman cartoon, I was actually on the road hitchhiking for 9 months around the time Batman, the animated series, was in full swing there. I heard about this episode called Heart of Ice, where Mr. Freeze became a player. It was revealed later Mike Mignola had done the redesign for Mr. Freeze. And I knew Mr. Freeze from the new Batman and Robin show that was on CBS in the 70s. And I didn't realize a lot of people thought he was a joke. I just thought he was a comic book villain. But when I heard the plot and I finally got to sit down and watch that episode on reruns one day, I was just sort of like, wait a minute. I've seen this plot before, and it came from this. So it always kind of cracks me up. This is part 1, and issue 7 tells the origin of what he's trying to do. Mr. Freeze in that Heart of Ice Batman animated series, his whole goal was to find a way to bring his wife out of her icy slumber there, if you will. And everybody thought that just gave him a bit of a better backstory and a sympathetic villain kind of guy. But I was always sort of like somebody read The Outsiders back in the day. So we got that one. Oh, what we got here? Enigma Vibration, brilliant. I started reading this when Alan Davis started drawing it. Yeah, when Alan Davis came on the Batman books, it was a bit of an adjustment for me. I really enjoyed what he was doing with The Outsiders. I think he ended up being on the detective books, if not Batman proper later on. But I always thought his style was too bright and light and stuff to be doing the dark, shadowy Batman of the 80s and stuff. So it was, it was really odd. I was like, great artist. They need to get him on a better book. And you can figure that out. I was a huge fan of Davis from his UK work and picked this up from his news agents. What surprised me the most about Alan Davis was his writing. This guy worked with Alan Moore before Alan Moore was a huge star in Britain, like on Miracle Man and Quench and some other stuff, I think 2000 AD or whatever. So when Alan Davis started doing these 2-issue prestige formats, I think the first thing I saw him writing was Excalibur when he returned to Excalibur in the 40s and maybe issue 42 or something. But when he did The Nail and Another Nail, Superboy's Legion, Fantastic Four, The End, there's like a 10-year span where he would have these little projects come out that he would write and draw. I could not get over how great of a writer he was. I was just like, I was blown away. You talk about what could have been if this guy had started writing his own stuff sooner, what we got here? William Byrd, since the thing that will not be named started, I picked up several full runs, including Batman, The Outsiders, 80s Kazar. I have a full run of that. 80s Mr. Miracle. I was collecting that right off the racks, probably about the first year of that book. Hitman, I'm missing 4 issues, and I'm a huge Garth Ennis Hitman fan. Grimjack and Marvel's Indiana Jones. I have not caught up on reading. Yeah, this is the time. I'm telling you, man, I think the last 4 or 5 years in comics, you're better off sort of going back and exploring old books and getting those back issues and stuff. Who else do we have popping in here, man? We have Grotu Orloff. All right, I probably butchered that name, but great to see you here. Okay. Now, here's something I have no idea what's about, but I've been getting into the Aliens books here for a while. I've had some sitting in my collection for a while. Somewhere along the line, I picked up a few. I found the Earth War by Sam Keith. So it was more of the creative teams and those Dark Horse books and little trades and stuff and back issue bins I've been picking up. And, of course, Marvel Comics, Disney bought up the Fox stuff, Fox Network Productions, whatever they've gotten. And Fox had the Aliens franchise, if you will. So they've started collecting the Dark Horse stuff and putting them out in trades. But from what I understand, the people who worked on those books at Dark Horse in the late 80s and 90s, I mean, it was Aliens and Predator that put Dark Horse on the map. They're not getting royalties from it. So I'm fine just finding these in back issues. But here's something called an Alien Special. And this cracks me up because we have an alien, going to a black tie affair, apparently. And so it's really cool to kind of find the actual issues when I can. And of course, I kind of dig the art, man. A big, heavy indie feel that if this was licensed to one of the big 2, I don't think we would have got this grittiness and this dark art. This has a story by Nancy A. Collins. A lot of people are simply in love with her novelizations. And her basically for this channel, what people probably know her from is she followed up on Swamp Thing. A lot of people love her Swamp Thing run. I've had a handful of them. I finally got around to reading. I don't get it. Maybe I need to invest myself more into reading more of her books, but she has a huge fan base when it comes to her Swamp Thing book in the comic book circles, if you will. So yeah, I really like this indie look they have in this, the black and white stuff. It feels very raw. So yeah, that was cool to get. So yeah, I pick those up every now and then. Okay. Now here's something that really surprised me. I don't know if this book has, I don't know a lot about this book. I don't know if it has Kirby ties to it. I don't know what got this book off the ground. I don't even know if anybody remembers it. I can't think of anybody really showing off the book, but I grabbed it because it has the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in it. And this is probably around 1991. But this is the last of the Viking heroes, number 3. And they have the turtles in here. Turtles apparently time traveled back into the day of these Vikings and stuff, right? Genesis West Comics. Don't know how this happened. You know, the movie had come out. They had the cartoon. They had the toys coming out. So, you know, apparently Eastman and Laird or whoever was involved at the time were sticking with their indie roots. And, you know, we had the turtles meeting the Viking heroes. And for some reason, I keep wanting to say the Viking heroes might have ties to Jack Kirby because there's some cool Kirby stuff in here, you know, especially in the editorial. You know, so yeah, I have no idea about the Viking heroes, but I swear it seems like I've run across them in circles talking about Kirby. Yeah, I could be totally wrong. I don't know. But anyway, there you go. I got another Turtles thing. My Turtles, if you know, my Turtles. People have been bragging about the IDW series that's out. The Last Ronin is out at the time I'm doing this show. And The Last Ronin is a leftover plot line from the 80s that Eastman and Laird both came up with. And they just, you know, one of them decided to go forward with it now. So my Turtles are, you know, from the original Mirage Studios in the 80s. You know, that's the stuff I like. I read some of that stuff in Image, I think when Larson got his hands on the, I don't know, on the rights or something or whatever he did, and they completely just destroyed the Turtles, in my opinion. I fell out for a while. Okay, now this that I got, I will pick up any of these books and give them a home when I run across them. To me, this is the only real crossover that ever mattered now that we've had time go by. 2020 go by. There's only a handful of these big company-wide crossovers that I think are really worth checking out now that, like I said, now that time has gone by. I think Blackest Night was the last great one, in my opinion. That was like, what, in 2009? Blows my mind that was 2009. I remember it like yesterday. But anyway, this is the Millennium Edition, right? DC came out, obviously, around the Millennium with some of the books that they had, and they put them in reprinted them with this gold stamp to let you know that they were Millennium Edition. They did like Kingdom Come, Neil Adams, Green Arrow, Batman, things that were, they felt like, you know, a Lois, Jimmy Olsen book, a Superboy book, you know, that just, you know, keys, you know, big time keys, DC Showcase. And this is the Crisis one. This is probably my second or third copy of this. This thing is practically mint. And what's really cool about this is that if you were there, or if you get your hands on an issue of Crisis on the Infinite Earths #1, the coloring was messed up. They were using this new technology at the time where it was based on plates or something, and all the color had shifted to the left or the right or one of them. So all the colors were the exact shape of like the person that it was supposed to have been filling in, but it was, you know, it was out of the lines, and it ran all over George Perez when he messed up the coloring. So in this one, the coloring is fantastic. It's definitely recolored, updated. There's a darker hue, I guess, to a lot of the art and stuff, but it actually has, it feels like the 80s was what they did. So that is just fantastic. But like I said, I'll pick these up. I have a Crisis on Infinite Earths box that I just keep filling up as I run across this. My original 12 issue Crisis on Infinite Earths that I bought off the stands, and I've told many a story about. I was lucky enough to get those beat up copies and had them signed by Marv Wolfman and George Perez back in like 2013 or something at Heroes Con. So that's always fun to get. All right. Now, I did take a chance on this. I'm assuming that this was back in the 80s. I'm assuming that this was direct market, meaning they were not on the newsstand. And I'm really basing that off of the format and just assume there's no UPC symbol on it. And I never saw it on, all the places in town where you get comics. I never saw it there, but I would see the advertisements for it. Then also, thanks to Doomsday Clock, they took this character and they took this book, these characters in this book, I guess, and in Doomsday Clock, Jeff Johns made it a movie, an old film noir movie that was showing in throughout the story of Doomsday Clock. But this was a 4-issue miniseries, Gene Colan art in it. But I got Nathaniel Dusk #1, private investigator. I love film noir. I dig film noir. So I'm down with it. When did this come out? 1983. But I have definitely been missing out because I love this technique in comics when they do it. They take the actual pencils and they were not inked and they just colored over the pencils. And that gives it this grainy feel, which is just fantastic. So even if this turns out to be something kind of cheesy or whatever, at least the artwork is fun to look at. Gene Colan is a legend in this. So yeah, feels authentic. So yeah, I'll check this out. And I really don't think it'll be too hard to find the other 3 issues if I want to get that, which is fantastic. Who we got in here? All right, we have Mind the Comics has popped in here. Pope Service the First has popped in here. What a great environment he came up in. Alan Davis is a favorite. All right, some people talking amongst themselves in here. Yeah, awesome, man. All right, so something I also got, like, I have 3, it feels like I had 2 childhoods, and then I became a kid in the 90s. I remember being a kid in the 70s, and then I grew up in the 80s. And by the time we hit the 90s, it's kind of the time where you kind of transition into the adult and stuff, right? But I have a soft spot, especially when I find these in great shape of these licensed properties of the 80s and stuff, right? Let's get off that. And I already have a full set of this, but, I kind of pick them up when I can, give them a home, especially if they're cheap. But here's part 2 of a 3-issue miniseries of the Power Lords. And I think this is from 83 also. Yeah, 1983. Mark Texeira, some of his early work. You also have to remember this was also the time where you had G.I. Joe hitting big, Star Wars had been big, He-Man had been big for about 2 years and get these advertisements. So, the toys would get pushed and merchandise and you would get all this stuff that was, basically commercials for kids, yet they were still cool. They told the backstories to your toys, which it was amazing, which was kind of cool. And I think I may have sold it, but I had 2 of these Adam Power, the main guy here. They just fell apart over the years. May have sold them a few years ago. I got a box I can look in and see if I still have it. But these are always fun, man. There's a while there you could swing a stick and find some of these properties. They were actually so popular there for a while. Marvel came out with their own toy line, the Crystal Warriors or something. I have the books here, and they came out with a 12-issue miniseries. I remember seeing some of the toys. They looked cool, but they really didn't go far. All right. Now, something I definitely got, I'm going to try not to spend a lot of time talking about this because it would be easy, but I have a huge soft spot for these guys, right? I still have this DC special one-shot from when I think I was in the hospital getting my appendix out, and ended up, I think it came out, I think somebody bought it for me. A lot of people that were friends with my mom and grandmother were hitting local Magic Marts or something. I was in the hospital getting my appendix out. They knew I like comics, so I was getting these stacks of comics, and I'm pretty sure this came through. I was already a Legion of Superheroes fan. I already knew who the subs were. But now I have a reader's copy officially. This thing's a little beat up, got a little rip here, and all this stuff. The bag's making it look high def when it's not. But this DC special with the Legion of Substitute Heroes is just funny as can be. They popped up over the time, and they go back to the Silver Age, probably the late 60s, I think, early 60s, excuse me. But what Keith Giffen did with them was just fantastic. They are misfits. These are all the people that were rejected when they tried out for the Legion. And a few of them wanted to be Legionnaires so bad, they figured they want to prove themselves. They made their own team, and they were the Legion of Substitute Heroes. Flash forward into like 1985, Keith Giffen gets them, and these misfits become comedy relief, if you will. And then you zoom up towards, early around, I don't know what it was, 2008, 2009 or something. And Jeff Johns ends up making them comedy relief in Superman meeting the Legion, one of the part two of a 3-arc story he was going to do, right? The subs pop in. And these guys are just fantastic. They are comedy relief. They are underdogs. They're trying to get acceptance from the cool kids. They don't have the resources that the Legion does, so they have to be a bit more innovative with the way that they do it. And when they show up, man, it's like you just know all hell's going to, it's like the little rascals popping up at a black tie affair when they're popping in. Things are going to get broke. They come up with these ideas. They swing a lot from the hip. And you kind of I end up cheering for them. Like, I would love a regular Legion of Substitute Heroes book. Just look at these guys. We have one person, his whole power is that he just turns to stone. You have Polar Boy, who, sounds like he ended up being in the Legion, but he couldn't control his powers. You have Color Kid, who could just put out lights of different colors. I think he could change the color of objects. Porcupine Pete, who every time he sneezed, he would just shoot his porcupine needles everywhere. And Infectious Lass, who will make you sick. She has her race. People on her planet all have every disease you can think of, and she can just throw them at you. And in this book, she ends up giving a disease that changes your gender, and Color Boy becomes Color Girl or something. And then you have Fire Lad, who basically can just shoot flame out of his mouth, but every time he sneezed also, he could burn down the whole place. But you end up in Chlorophyll Kid. He can make things grow, they're plants. Yeah, but anyway, it was so cool to see the redesigns on this. They pull from characters who were throwaway characters in the Silver Age comic, like fall off. The one guy had his ears could just pick up all the radio waves that you can think of. It was a useless power. One guy's arms would fall off. Doubleheader had 2 heads. It's stuff like that. But there's like a certain charm to these guys. Yes, they're comedy relief, but I just love the haphazard misfit tone of these guys, and they just keep trying. They ended up making something special on their own, and they don't even know it because their dream is to be part of the Legion, and they ended up making something I think could actually be cooler, I'm like, it's like trying to get into the WWE and you end up finding out you had more fun in the indies. It's fantastic. All right. Rest in peace, Drew Hayes. This is from Serious Comics. And there was this book that I kind of cheered the guy on because the guy that was doing this book, it was his property, his book. He was like this guy that you could tell played Dungeons and Dragons. And you could also tell that he was into heavy metal. And he ended up coming up with Poison Elves. Now I got a few issues of Poison Elves. And I got to tell you, man, it's not the most well-written book. It's like a lot of great ideas. Like one of the main characters has a magic pistol. He's an elf, but he has a magic pistol that never runs out of bullets. Stuff like that. Plays around with magic. It's got a dark tone and edge to it. And it definitely has a cult following. And sadly, Drew Hayes, passed away, years ago. But this is his sketchbook from the 90s and stuff. That they put out stuff with his book at Sirius. This book actually was selling quite well, I remember, in a comic book shop in the, I don't know, like 96, 97, 98, somewhere around that time. And it was really cool, man, because you would have Dawn by Joe Michael Linsner, and then you have Poison Elves by Sirius Comics right there. There's some other stuff going on. And it stood out. And I read it, and I'm like, it just felt like I knew this guy that drew it. I kind of found the creator more interesting than his book, so there you go. All right. We got a Giffen fan. All right. What's up? Jonah Jello. Yes. Yeah. When I met Keith Giffen finally, a couple years ago at Heroes Con, and he popped up, the way I ended up introducing myself is I had gone through some books and stuff trying to find out what do I really want Giffen to sign. And I did not realize all the stuff I've had of his. So the first words out of my mouth is when I got up to his table and looked at him, I was like, you know what, Giffen, you caused me a lot of problems. He was like right there with me, man. He was like, hey, he was, he was cool. He's one of those artists that I find very interesting because he actually looks like one of his drawings. And I took a picture of he and I together. So it's on my Facebook somewhere. Now this, I was really happy to get. Like if I had walked away and didn't buy anything, this would be it. Okay, but this is the Sandman Mystery Theater annual from 1994. It's the first annual. Matt Wagner, Steven Seagal, Guy Davis was doing this great Vertigo book of the Sandman Mystery Theater, where it was like a pulp novel you were reading. He was fighting cults, occult cults, all kinds of stuff, serial killers and murders and stuff on the streets of the 30s. Had a real pulp feel to it. It was in the 30s, and even though I was never there around the 30s, I felt like I was walking around the 1930s and stuff, right? But this annual disappeared and was hot for a while. And plus, it was a direct market only book. But this has some black and white pictures by Alex Ross that he painted for this book. They had a lot of guys come on this, man. You had John Bolton, Guy Davis, David Lloyd of V from Vendetta, of course, Alex Ross, and some other guys. So I've wanted to get my hands on this for a while. I have run across this book, and for a hot 5 minutes, I remember seeing it sell for $25 at some little indie cons and stuff. And I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, it's kind of cool to find a 26-year-old book that I'm excited about. And it was kind of cool just to run across it. As soon as it came across my eyes, I was like, I know what that is. So yeah, now this is going in the Alex Ross box. This is when Alex Ross was just becoming a huge star. Marvel's, and I think Kingdom Come hadn't come out yet, but Marvel's had. And now I often talk about hidden gems in comics. That's one of the things. Buying comics cheap, how to buy them cheap, and these diamonds in the rough where I read my comics and I loved certain stories and stuff, even though they weren't popular and stuff. And that's fine. I still hold on to that stuff, right? But I kind of give these a home too when I find them and everything like that. But this came out. This was a miniseries. This is when miniseries were still young. Everybody still wasn't doing them. But this has got to be around from '83 also when I was 10. Seen a theme here, man. But it's Sword of the Atom. It's where they took the Atom and they revamped the character in story, which is, I think, why this has a lot of strength to it, if you will. And they went completely Edgar Rice Burroughs with it. He gets stuck at 6 inches tall in the Amazon jungle, and he finds a race of aliens who their ship crashed in the Amazon jungle, and they've been there for so long they forgot their own technology and pretty much went barbarian and gladiator, and all that stuff. And then here comes the Atom going. I think he was Ray Palmer. He was going down to the Amazon to join a research team or something because he and his wife were splitting up, and it's revealed he caught her making out in their driveway in a car during the rain. And he shrinks down to 6 inches trying to fight these terrorists or something that took over the plane, and he gets knocked out of there. His belt breaks. He's stuck at 6 inches in the Amazon jungle, and it's an Edgar Rice Burroughs story. It's fantastic. Sword of the Atom. I still dig it to this day. I thought that was like this freaking cool. It was 4 issues, a couple specials. They ended up bringing them back 4 or 5 years later. Ooh, drag racing going on outside. Okay, now this is actually one of, I think, 4 connecting covers. I think it connects to a Suicide Squad book, a Captain Atom book, a Detective book, and then the Spectre book. And this is from '88 when they were doing Millennium. You had Crisis on Infinite Earth, which was fantastic. The next year they did Legends, and that was actually the real start of books like Justice League, George Perez's Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad. That was the real start of the DC universe after Crisis. And then they had the Millennium. It was a issue a week, with all these crossovers and stuff. Or, the Guardians were bringing a new race of Guardians into the world or something. And the Manhunters were trying to stop it. And then it turned out every hero found out they had a Manhunter in disguise. And all this stuff, it really fell flat. I remember reading it, being all excited, and I'm like, this sucks. It was like dawning on me. The longer it went, the more it sucked. But anyway, this is the Spectre number 10 with some fantastic Gray Morrow art in it. Gray Morrow draws a fantastic Batman. If you like David Mazzucchelli's Batman from like year 1, you definitely got to check out Gray Morrow's art in this one, right? But yeah, it's a new format. So this was a direct market only book, but they're in the swamp. And like I said, there's a Captain Atom, a detective, a Suicide Squad, or something in there, and all 4 books connect and stuff. So I want to see what I have left over from that era. See if I can get them all to connect. But like I said, the Gray Morrow art, I've already flipped through this, is fantastic. And as you can see, we got the creepy specter just traveling through the swamp. And you got to look real close because he's like phasing through trees and stuff as he goes on out through there. And look, it's a snake, dangerous out there. Cattails and snakes. What we got here? Great Giffen story. The Poison Elf sketchbook sounds cool. Never read the series, but was always curious to try it out. Rest in peace, Drew Hayes. I'm telling you, man, the book was fun, but the guy was doing what he was doing, and I don't like putting it down, but I think it was terribly written. But like I said, it's got a cult following. I would pick up a few on the cheap to see if you want to check it out, man. I can't say that I'm recommending it, but I got a soft spot for the dude. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's one of us that made it. You know what I mean? He had limited talent, and he pushed it as far as he could go, and then he made it. He got his book published. I mean, what more, man? Sword of Adam is a lot of fun. I have those 4 issues in a special. Yeah, there's 3. Yeah, there's 4 issues, 3 specials, and then Secret Origins started bringing him back because Roger Stern was bringing him back for the Power of the Atom comic book that lasted like 18 issues. There are Sword of Adam specials. The 3rd one was already published post-Crisis. It was Pat Broderick art. Yeah, Gil Kane was on there until that last one. Gray Morrow is always a good sight for eyes. Nice Spectre cover. Oh, thank you, man. Yeah. Gray Morrow is one of those people that if you know him, you love him. I don't think he gets enough credit. I'm always kind of picking up these books like Quasar. I've got like a few off the cuff books that I'm always kind of completing. It's part of the fun of even if I don't find major books or anything when I go to these, I have 2-3 series I'm always sort of keep an eye out to complete. And What If from the 90s is one of them. I'm always kind of picking them up on the cheap to see a few of them. I bought, good gosh, I think I bought like the first 2.5 years of the book right off the stands as it came out and stuff. But this is issue 39. What if the Watcher saved the universe? And it says Timequake down here. Okay. Because I think they finally came up with a 5-part story in the What If book here, where they wrote Uatu, the Watcher, who was the host for this book, into the series. So what if the Watcher saved the universe? I don't remember a whole lot about it, but like I said, this one's in relatively good shape. And what is so funny is they pulled out a Walt Simonson concept that he came up with, the Time Varying Authority. I'm trying to think where I saw this. I want to say it was maybe Fantastic Four. Walt Simonson popped them out of. I could be wrong, in the 80s. But they turned around and they had somebody called the Deputy Marshal that I am pretty good was the king of continuity. Mark Grunwald wrote in a character that looks a lot suspiciously like Mark Grunwald. So that's what I mean. This was fun. Sometimes it's kind of cool just to find a fun book. And I went ahead and grabbed these up. They're not in the best shape, but some of these books I lost over the years or sold over the years. Who knows what happened? I don't know, man. But this came out at a time where I was living way out in the boonies, and there was a gas station out in the middle of nowhere. It's still there. That's what's funny. It's had many, many owners over the years, but they had this like a rack of comics, and the rack probably had room for maybe 10 different comics. And I would walk there sometimes with friends, sometimes by myself. And it was just fun to walk, believe it or not, 2-3 miles, just go down to that store, get a little bit of candy, get something to drink. God, what was that? Like 12 or 13 years old at this time, seventh grade. And I'd go down there and I'd pick up these books. And this was the run of books that were coming out, Jim Starlin on Batman. And I did not pick up the Death in the Family books as they came out with the Magnolia covers. At the time, I was buying other stuff. Who knows what. But anyway, here's issue. This is a Joe Duffy, Conan Dwyer book, but it's got a great Walt Simonson cover. Batman: The New Adventures, post-crisis, I guess, 1987, issue 413. But it has a fantastic Walt Simonson cover with a samurai. So, yeah, of course I picked that one up. Like I said, these are a little bit beat up. The Jim Starlin 414. This is when Jason Todd was in there, and people were just hating Jason Todd. And I read an interview where they were talking about Jason Todd was a rare occasion for this has happened to a lot of writers apparently, where you have that one character that seems to take over in their own story, even though you're the one writing it. And those are the characters that usually end up getting killed off. Start writing themselves. Like, here we go, the Millennium again, a Millennium crossover. I remember seeing these, and I just never really picked them up. And then this was a book that I have no explanation, and I always go straight to maybe somebody stole them from me. I hate to go that way with it, but I don't have any other explanation that I can think of. Maybe the stepdad grabbed them and read them and didn't put them back. I don't know what happened, but I did this thing where every now and then there would be a story, and I didn't want to wait month to month. So I would just collect the book. And when the story is complete, I'd sit down and read them all. I still do that with some stuff, right? But this was the one that right when I got that 4th issue and I laid it right there, you know, I had a little bookshelf there and stuff in my little room and stuff. And I laid it right there. And then when I went back on the Sunday to read my books, it was gone. I never figured out what happened. Never had an explanation. I don't even think I had anybody come over to my house and hang out. Anyway, I can go on and on about that, but it's been a mystery since 1988. I don't know what happened to these nights, but here we are at the tail end of the Cold War, and we got the 10 Nights of the Beast, a 4-issue story in the Batman books by Jim Starlin and Jim Aparo. So, yeah, I had all these right off the stand, these awesome Mike Zeck covers. Mike Zeck was a favorite artist of mine and still is. I got to meet him also at Baltimore Con. But 10 Nights of the Beast, it just looked so cool on the covers with this Batman story. What is going on? And these are ripped. And like I said, these are rough. I just found this morning, this one has been bent so much it actually ripped through the whole book there. But I've got them. And they were like 67 cents a piece, whatever. So now I can finally read the 10 Nights of the Beast. Comic books that disappeared from my room in 1988. I was 14. Never got an explanation. Can't even really come up with a real theory. What we got here? I don't think the art and writing on that second What If was near as good as the first. No, I agree with you. The first What If run, even though they all, to be honest here, to be quite honest with them, they all weren't exactly top tier stuff, but they were fun. But I tell you what, that second What If series, there's an issue of What If. I think it's issue 13 of the original What If series. You can correct me, but it was by Roy Thomas and John Buscema, and it was called What If Conan Roamed the Earth Today. And due to magic, he ended up landing in like 1977 New York. And it was an epic little story in there. It was so epic. So, yeah, I mean, I think the second What If story was fun because they just threw in a whole lot of stuff in there that were good ideas, sounded cool. You know what I mean? They had a pacing that was pretty fast. Whereas the other What If story, they had a little bit more craft and structure to them. You know what I mean? Some people actually tried to tell a full-length story with a beginning, middle, and an end. You know what I mean? Let's see what we got here. Agreed. Nice Simonson cover. Never have seen that one. I remember the Zeck cover is awesome. His Punter covers are excellent. Yeah, his stuff on Captain America is what made me a fan of his. You had something else to say. Seems like younger talent got assigned to it. Yeah, and like there was one that was cool, very cool. It was What If Wolverine joined S.H.I.E.L.D., and it was by Rob Liefeld. It was one of the things where I was like, damn, Rob Liefeld actually can draw a book. Now, if I go back and revisit it, I still have it. I revisited that. I wonder if I would still have that opinion of it. I remember he kind of nailed that one. And they had a lot of fun stuff. You know, they brought in Lord of the Vampires on there, and I mean, it was just really cool. Now I got this one. I went back and forth with having this one. I may still have a copy of it, but this is in 1988 again. You can tell whatever's going on with this box. But this one right here, the Captain Atom series had come out, and it started out with Pat Broderick art, and it kind of survived. I don't know who was watching it, but eventually I remember it just disappearing from the newsstands. I still have the original 3 issues, but this was in the midst of Swamp Thing by Alan Moore being freaking legendary. You know what I mean? Like, it was hot and stuff, right? And they threw in old, and I'm thinking they did this for sales. If I had to imagine, I was there in the offices and stuff, right? But this was Captain Atom number 17, where we got a Swamp Thing in there. Now, this was probably the last issue I remember seeing on the stands, even though the book survived a couple years after this. The book actually got some back issues that had that got hot, and they may still be sort of hard to find at a decent price because they stuck in Neil Gaiman's death in there, and there was a little bit of controversy with that. You know, that was like in the 40s. You know, I think I have those also though. But right, yeah. But in the midst of Swamp Thing being super hot, thanks to Alan Moore and what was going on with the mature label and all that stuff that was going on. I mean, I really don't think I need to explain, you know, Swamp Thing's status by 1988. You know, but yeah, all of a sudden he just kind of popped up randomly out of nowhere with you know, Captain Atom. And I really don't remember Swamp Thing before they went full Vertigo with them popping up in a lot of other DC books at the time. I know he popped up in Peter Dave's Aquaman in the 90s, you know, and there's probably just a handful. This is one of the handfuls of him after Alan Moore got a hold of him, where he popped up out of his book. So yeah, of course I'm going to get that for 67 cents. I may still have my original. I don't know. But Pat Broderick is still doing the art on this. Now, I remember Captain Atom by Pat Broderick, and also in Justice League when Bart Sears got a hold of him, and a lot of people were wondering why Bart Sears wasn't on this Captain Atom book. It was really cool, you know. Anyway, that's kind of cool to have there. Hey, comic collector, what's up? You're looking at it. This is it. Okay, now these I went ahead and got, okay, because even coverless copies of this era of comics will sell if I ever want to get rid of them, right? And I couldn't believe that these two Silver Age books were in there. And like I said, I got these for what could be 67, 68 cents a piece. And no grade is better than no comic. Well, no, that's not right. Low grade is better than no grade. Okay, let me get that right. That's an old saying that a guy named Gene Paul Ace Peter, I think he's the guy that, you know, kind of brought that around to the back in the day here on YouTube. But anyway, these are Silver Age books, right? 67, 68 cents a piece. I now have Green Lantern number 36. Okay. And you're going to see why the guy put it in there. Somebody has cut the corner out. Not a big deal to me. This is from 1965. But basically, this was cut out because somebody wanted to buy 100 magnets, all brand new, for 79 cents. And yeah, this is what you had to cut out to order it and mail it in to get your magnets. So some kid wanted some magnets and decided to destroy a comic book to get them. You know, it's 1965. Nobody knew this stuff was going to be worth anything. But that's still cool. I had a Daredevil number 2 left over from the Stepdad's collections. It had no cover on it, and the first page was ripped. And it was the Fantastic Four busted into Matt Murdock's office to hire him as a lawyer and stuff, right? And for shits and giggles, I kind of put it on eBay to see what I would get for it. It's probably back in like 2010 or something. Man, I ended up getting something like $28 for that. And there was a bidding war for it. So even this low grade Silver Age stuff, if you want to flip it, turn it around or whatever, there's still hope, if that makes any sense. And then I got this. Now this is chipped and this is a little bit ripped, but this is still fantastic. 12 cents, a 12 center. This is from 1965 also. It still has gloss. That's what's wild. Even with all this damage on it, this thing is flat and the staples are still there. And it still has a glossy cover, which blows my mind. But one of the only Western characters I really like. I'm not big into Westerns. I have some Western movies I like. I love my Lone Ranger, don't get me wrong. But Two Gun Kid was the guy I liked. And as I got older, when you had like Two Gun Kid, Rawhide Kid, Rawhide Kid, who am I forgetting? There's a couple of them. I finally figured out the reason I like the Two Gun Kid is that they were using the superhero formula on him. He was a masked cowboy that still had a secret identity. So yeah, I got Two Gun Kid. It says number 75. So I'm quite sure I'm gonna have to do a little research to see what this originally was. But I tell you what, nothing warms your heart than seeing ads like that. The Mighty Marvel. Oh my God, I'm going blank. The MMMS Wants You. Stan Lee did this thing where he made everybody feel like they were part of something, part of a club, and even had like a theme song that I think he put on a floppy disk or something. I don't know, floppy disk record or something. I could be like way out of my mind right now. So yeah, I got some Jack Kirby art, some Stan Lee stories, and Two Gun Kid. I mean, 68 cents, even though, like I said, you can tell where it's a little bit chipped and beat up. And I think the reason there's a lot of chipping on these older books is because there's a clay-based paper that they used. So even if you didn't rip it and took care of it, you would still get like this weird chipping and stuff because of the quality of paper they used. But you can kind of see that glare, this, in the center and stuff. I don't know how they ended up taking care of it, but it still has that glossy finish on it. So that's cool. I'll be putting those up. And then we're going back into the 80s. I remember seeing advertisements for this, right? And, it was a Kirby character. I knew Kirby. But I did not know Matt Wagner at the time. And they had this miniseries coming out, and I saw the advertisement for it. And I really wasn't into things that were like super dark and occult and everything like that, right? Despite being a huge fan of Swamp Thing, go figure and stuff, right? 12, 13, 14-year-old logic, you're still figuring things out. But anyway, also it probably has something to do with all the primary colors on this character that I just wasn't really into, right? But live and learn, right? But anyway, I picked up this because it was a #1, and I may try to track down the other ones. But this is book 1 of 4 by Matt Wagner of the Demon. This is where I think he ended up turning the demon into a rhyming demon, if you will. Merlin's little demon that he would summon up and curse and all that stuff, right? But yeah, Matt Wagner, I'm a huge fan of his stuff now. I love when he gets on the Batman. People like his Mage, people like his Grendel. I like his Batman Grendel crossover stuff from the 90s that he did. So yeah, it's always kind of cool to see Matt Wagner come on there. And like I said, he was also on that Sandman Mystery Theater. So yeah, I got this #1. I know people who had bought this book off the rack, if they weren't big comic book collectors, and they just coveted this book. They just loved whatever's in here. So it's gonna be interesting for me to get in here and see what he did with it when I finally get around to reading it. Check it out. We're thinning through the herd here. So on my books. So let's see what we have here. The Avengers was my book as a boy. Two Gun Kid and some of the Marvel other Western heroes joined Earth's Mightiest for a couple of issues. Perez art. Love that time traveling story arc. I don't know if it's the same one that you're talking about, but I think this is when the Squadron Supreme were the bad guys, the Squadron Sinister. They had 2 stories going at the same time. Hawkeye ended up going back in time to the Western era, and at the same time, you had the Squadron Sinister and Hellcat popping up, and Perez was just all over that, man. That was actually really cool. I have a bunch of those. What we got here? That beautiful looks like an album cover. Thank you. I think it is too, though. Yeah, that is cool. Thanks, Toki Death Hammer. I've never thought about that. Here we go. Matt Wagner's Demon. My first contact with both with Wagner and Edgren. Awesome. Cool. Oh, Boondock. We have somebody else that's popped up in here. Boondock KS90. Love this guy's avatar there, man. Breakfast Club. Okay. Now, I picked these up also. I got a full run. And I tell you what, this is actually one of my favorite characters. Those 8 issues that Kirby put out back in the day, I would talk about OMAC with the same breath that I talk about Commandy and stuff. And I'll never forget the one dude who made a video after I was talking about OMAC. He was sitting there flipping through them, blown away. And he said, no wonder Howler Mouse likes this book because he kicks so much butt. But he didn't say butt, he kicks so much butt. And it's OMAC, the One-Man Army Corps. This is number 8, last with the Joe Kubert cover, last of the series. I think it's Dr. Scuba. He might still be doing that. Now, this is a little beat up and stuff, but I will pick up OMAC comics all day long if they're by Kirby, if they're like at least, still stapled together. But yeah, this Kirby, Commandy stuff, all that stuff, I will pick them up left and right. Same thing with his Marvel stuff. But like I said, 68 cents for another copy. This is probably my third copy of this. I really need to go through my OMAC stuff because I think I may just need 2 or 3 more issues to have a complete second set, you know. But yeah, check out Kirby's OMAC. That's one of the most underrated books that he's ever done. And I think it's issue 3 or 5. It's just him fighting, him blowing up stuff and fighting soldiers, a giant monster, everything. And he's just getting tore all to pieces. And he's yelling for Brother Eye to shoot him down some more energy. Oh, it's good stuff. I mean, he just gets tortured, when he just keeps going. And I'm hoping this is an upgrade. I just realized I have not unbagged this one. And just kind of by judging it, I kind of doubt it is. But we're back to the Batman and the Outsiders, but they crossed over with the Teen Titans. And you got these 2 connecting covers that went with Teen Titans, maybe number 35, maybe. Jim Aparo, George Perez. I don't know who did what, but you had the Fearsome Five going at it against the Outsiders and the Teen Titans, and they're just mixing it up, and it made 2 connecting covers. I had them, but yeah, I just kind of wanted an upgrade, or maybe if I get 2 of these, if I have 2 copies of each book, I may just totally vandalize the books, cut off the covers, and connect them in a picture frame or something. I don't know. It just depends. Yeah, I know that's sacrilege when it comes to comics and stuff, right? But what was really interesting is if you were reading DC in the early 80s, like I was, All-Star Squadron, Batman the Outsiders, some of the Batman books. Something that I kind of wondered if they did on purpose or not, because I didn't really hear anything about it. But Robin, hanging out with the Teen Titans. Marv Wolfman had the Teen Titans growing up. That was the trick with the book. He had them dealing with some mature themes and stuff that he was able to still get a Comics Code authority in. And I know this is 40 years ago, but it was quite revolutionary and stuff, what he was being able to pull off with these characters, right? So Robin is growing up, spending more time. He and Batman are not getting along. And this is when Batman started turning into butthole Batman, if you will. I know that's a mature word, but it's what was going on. And he was getting kind of darker and darker until we got like a Jason Todd in there. And this went on for like 3 years in the books. And then all of a sudden it was in this Batman and the Outsiders and Teen Titans crossover where they made peace. Batman says something like, "The pupil has now taught the teacher. I'm proud of you. Oh, excuse me, my former pupil," and kind of gives his blessing. And then like less than a year, Robin, Dick Grayson became Nightwing. So it just felt like there was like this underlying story that was going on and affecting Batman. And he put the Outsiders together because he was missing Robin. It took 5 new characters. I mean, he was lashing out against the Justice League. He was just being a butthole to everybody, smacking hands away when people were reaching, very dramatic, smacking hands away from people who wanted to reach out. Couldn't try to understand why he was so angry and mad and everything like that. And basically he made the Outsiders because he was missing Robin. It took 5 people to be new sidekicks, if you will, Batman and the Outsiders, for him to train and make his little army and stuff. And he ends up walking off from the team and stuff when they grow up also. So it's one of those things, if you just read this little era of Batman, even though it's not spoon-fed to you, you kind of put together, it really affected Batman to have Robin leaving. If you hung in for that long-winded observation that I had. Boondock S90. Batman the Outsiders was my first ongoing series I bought. Hard to find a Batman comic #1 for under $2 as a kid. Yeah, I think I said at the top of this show when I whipped out the other Batman the Outsiders book, I'm pretty sure Batman the Outsiders was the 2nd or 3rd Batman #1 of any book that you could find at the time. Okay. Now we're going indie here a little bit. Going a little bit indie here. These are all mixed up, but this is Eclipse Comics. Now, what's going on with my collecting is that I've been going back and I'm finding these books that I would just see advertisements for. I lived in a town where there was no way to get direct market books. There was no comic book shop. Back then, the comic book shop that's an hour away or so might as well have been in a whole different world. You know what I mean? When you're that young, don't have money and all that kind of stuff. And so now I'm going back, and the things I was able to start picking up around 16, 17 years old and seeing the ads where I can actually get to a comic book shop with some of my friends every now and then. So when I see some of these books popping up, I want some First comics. I want some Eclipse comics. I want some of that epic line of books that you couldn't get from Marvel in the 80s. You know, I've accumulated them over the years, but this is the first time where I'm really keeping an eye out for it. But apparently Airboy was a huge popular book by Chuck Dixon that people still talk about. And they had a special come out called Air Maiden Special, where apparently it's Valkyrie and Black Angel. Come on and focus. Is it going to focus? There we go. La Lupina. But anyway, they apparently they took a lot of the girls from the books and gave them their own special as the Air Maidens. So we'll see what that's all about. I think some of the first Eclipse books that I ever got was their actual version of Crisis on Infinite Earths written by Marv Wolfman called Total Eclipse. And Eclipse, I don't know, man. I wasn't there. You know, they weren't around there. But I think what put Eclipse on the map is when they got a hold of Alan Moore's Miracle Man. Okay, what we got here? There's an excellent Superman and OMAC one-shot with Perez artwork. DC Comics presents 61. I remember that era, and Batman was acting the way he did. I'll tell you what, thanks for explaining. I want to keep this up here, man, because I have 3 copies, and I bet you they're probably right here in this first box. If I wanted to jump up there and try to find them. But that DC Comics Presents book that he's talking about with the Perez artwork, it was Superman meets OMAC. And see if this plot doesn't sound familiar to you, right? A killer robot comes back in time to kill the ancestor of a person who stops the revolution, stops the bad guys from taking over. This was a full year before the Terminator movie came out with Schwarzenegger. That's one of the reasons that I keep collecting that book. Number one, it was the first time I saw George Perez redrawing in his style, a Jack Kirby character, and it blew me away. Like I said, I loved OMAC, even though the first issue scared me as a kid with that cover. If you look up the cover, it terrorized me. But it's always amazed me how this book came out at least a year before the Terminator movie, and it's the same plot. Maybe it's got the same influences. I don't see somebody reading this comic and then writing the Terminator movie and having that movie come out a year later. So that's just amazing, the kismet that we have with that storyline. And I've got 3 or 4 copies. I always kind of pick it up when I see it. And I still have the one I bought off the stands. I hope that's the right year. No, I'm not jumping up and getting it. Anyway, and then I have this one. Again, this is one of the books that I'm just going to kind of keep on my shelf so I don't have to dig through my box. And I found out I just need one issue. I was buying this off the rack every month, right, for 5 years, and anything that had anything to do with it. I was a Keith Giffen, James DeMantis, Kevin McGuire, Adam Hughes, all the people that worked on the book Justice League guys. And the first 60 issues of the Justice League America, International, America, as it came on, all the way to the last storyline of breakdowns that went through it. You had Justice League Quarterly, Justice League Europe. You had him popping up in an issue of Booster Gold. You had him popping up in an issue of Captain Atom and all that stuff. But it was the great Justice League, international book. This is, but this is number 7. Fantastic Kevin McGuire art on here. Al Gordon did the inks and stuff, right? But there's certain issues I love. I've got a whole box. I have all of these, and I'm still missing one issue. Again, maybe I never had it. I don't know. But yeah, I just need one issue to have complete Justice League quarterly books, annuals, everything like that. I think I need to, I don't know if I'm really big on this Justice League quarterly books now that I'm thinking about it, for you guys that were there and know what I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah, I got this just to kind of flip through it and look at it and stuff. This is fantastic. A great run. I highly recommend anybody who wants to give this run of Keith Giffen and DeMantis on Justice League a shot. Get the first 7 issues. The first 7 issues is all you need. It's the rebuilding of the Justice League after Crisis on Infinite Earths and a few other things happened. And they came out and Legends was sort of the story of how they were getting back together into their own book. All right. And then we have Doom Patrol. And I have no idea why I picked this one up. and I don't regret it, but it just amazes me that this is actually almost near mint. Okay. And it was sitting there in a box with no bag and a bunch of other beat up box. And I want to have to slow this down really good, really still, if you will. But this is Doom Patrol number 61. This is getting close to the end of Grant Morrison's run. And what you were looking there is that this is a face, and this is, candelabra of candles and stuff. But this is the candlestick maker, an absolutely terrifying monster you do not want to mess with, that came from the imagination of Dorothy, who could bring imagination to life and stuff, if you will. And if you are watching the Doom Patrol TV show, I have not started season 2 yet. I will be though and stuff, but I saw the trailer for it or something, and they're bringing the candlestick maker into it. That Doom Patrol television show, it's on HBO Max. If you can, on my phone, I'm able to cast it to my television show. Plus, I have the Doom Patrol season 1 on DVD, and I think season 2 comes out in January. But they have done things on this Doom Patrol show that I never thought I would see, where they're pulling from the Arnold Drake years, they're pulling from the Grant Morrison stuff, and we're seeing it. So when I saw this, I already have a complete run of this since the 90s. Like I was just sort of excited. I never thought I'd see a Doom Patrol TV show. Between that and Infinity, that and the Infinity War Marvel movie, I've never felt such validation for doing this hobby for so long. What we got here? That's right. Good catch on the Terminator plot. Appreciate it. And Gore Vidal is here. Kevin McGuire drew the best smirks. When I met Kevin McGuire a few years ago and had him sign my Justice League #1, he just set it down and just kind of looked at it. And he's another guy who seems to make facial expressions to match his artwork. So he was like, I swear he's pretty sure he has signed every copy of the Justice League #1 ever made. Enigma. I loved Richard Case's artwork on Doom Patrol. Richard Case actually shows up at little bitty teeny tiny cons, conventions in Southwestern Virginia over here. I think he lives like in North Carolina or something, which is not that far from the Virginia state line where we're at and stuff. But yeah, I have something signed by him here. It might be a Doom Patrol issue and stuff, but it blew my mind when I saw some of his prints and original artwork right there in front of him. And deep down, I'm just sitting there like inside, like just kind of disgusted that people don't realize who this is. You know what I mean? Even though, and then I got to think, we're talking about books that he jumped on like 30 years ago, just amazing. All right. And I got 2 more books with this. I can't believe I've been on here this long. Okay. But again, I have this one, but I picked it up because it's a #1. And there is a part of me that feels like one day we're going to have Lobo Mania again, even as short-lived as it is. I mean, if we can have Darkhawk from Marvel and Sleepwalker #1 become hot books on eBay that everybody's wanting the #1s of, it's easy for me to believe that one day possibly we could have a Lobo television show or a Lobo movie. Deadpool got a movie. You know what I mean? I mean, I sit here and I can name off these odd and weird characters I never thought I would see. And for a lot of people, it's not that big a deal, if they haven't been reading comics for a long time. But, I went ahead and got this Lobo's back #1 again. I already have the entire series. I bought the first 2 miniseries right off the rack, blown away by Simon Bisley and stuff. But this one caused a little bit of controversy because Simon Bisley swears up and down that if you look at anatomy, that elbow is just an elbow. Sometimes the cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes the sack is just a sack. I don't know. But anyway, people caught this on the #1 issue that he hid a phallic image on there. And a lot of people went out and bought the book, even though it's the second miniseries, #1. So yeah, I just grabbed that, and this was originally priced for $4, whoever they got these books off of. And then I bought this one. I will admit, I'm expecting this book to be total crap. I'm expecting this book to just be of its era, but I already had the Alan Moore issues of the books that he did for Image. And it's been revealed that they were supposed to have done some kind of big, huge 1963 annual or something to kind of bring all these characters together and top them off. But it was Alan Moore coming with, I think it was Rick Vetch, came to Image, and he gave Image Comics its Silver Age, and it was a direct rip, homage, whatever, of the Marvel Silver Age and stuff, right? You know, you had like your Fantastic Four kind of creatures, which Dave Gibbons did, and then you had the Fury, which I think Rick Vetch did, and you know, you had a lot of different artists on these one-shot books, these 1963 characters, but it never came to fruition. I think Jim Lee was supposed to have done like a 1963 annual to get the subplot that was going through those 4 or 5 issues. I almost want to grab them off the shelf behind me, because they're with the Alan Moore stuff that I keep out to read and stuff, right? So it never came to fruition. People for years were really asking, is 1963 ever going to be completed? It didn't. And then all of a sudden it kind of popped up in Shadowhawk number 14, Jim Valentino. So I went ahead and grabbed this. I've run across this book several times, you know, and this is an homage to a Kirby cover, if you will. He even says so here. After the King, Valentino and Tom Rainey after the King. So there you go. I kind of think they're harking back to X-Men number 1, maybe. You know, this would be where Magneto would normally stand. I don't know. I'm probably wrong. But anyway, yeah, that's how. I can't believe I should have put this book on top. It's kind of for me to get an early Image book and have that be what I end this video with. I don't know, man. I don't know. Hopefully, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe it'll be good. Who knows? Who knows? All right, guys. Well, that's my little haul. Again, this was a haul where it was just fun to be able to find some random comics in a mall at a guy who was selling, you know, they had a bunch of tables and they were selling all sorts of stuff, knives, stickers, just whatever else you could find. A little mini flea market, if you will, right there in the middle of the mall. And those guys had not been there since February of this year. So it was kind of cool to be able to just, you know, spend some time flipping through some comics during these days and times, and then going to the bookstore there and getting some stuff done. But tonight, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit of this Elfen Lied. Start on it. I have some Howard the Duck from the 70s I'm going to read a little bit, and just prepare myself to remind myself that I have a career and I have bills to pay, and we start work back again tomorrow. So, oh man, Gretzky popped in right at the end. Yeah, catch it on the replay, man. It was fun. I never did get the 1963 Shadowhawk. I should hunt it down and revisit the 63 stuff. I'm not recommending the Shadowhawk or not. I got it because it was there. It was complete. Hey, thank you for popping in. All right, thanks for everybody that popped in here, hung out here. Thanks for just, you know, having something for all of us getting together on this Sunday night and talking about this hobby a little bit, man. So good luck with everybody this week. And in 2 days starts December 1st. Countdown to the new year and Christmas in between and anything else you celebrate. So maybe we can end everything in this year on a high point. I mean, there's nowhere to go but up. Everybody be excellent to each other. Catch you later.